Friday for some of you. Welcome to day 13 of the 21-day Dare to Rise challenge. Wow, day 13. So exciting. So, how's the snow for everybody? Whoever's in the snow, that is. Well, over here in New York, not much snow. It is cold, but not too cold. Not as much as it is in our neck of the woods. For those of you who know, you know. All right, so I got all my stuff settled here. Okay, so today we are doing our 5th section of the book, which is about self-care. So some of us are very used to prioritizing our self-care, and some other of us are not. And so the goal is, if you're already very familiar with the importance of that, then hopefully you'll learn a little something or add a little something to your toolbox today. We have 3 reflections on self-care. And so we've done environment, temperature, foundation, self-image, and today we are doing self-care. So important for rising as well. And yeah, I almost died because I didn't understand this aspect. So I'm very passionate about making sure that people understand how poignant this is. So let's do the reading and get to the challenge. And if I get to yap, I will yap. All right, your self-care. Life is busy and demands on our time are constant. Carving out some for ourselves can be difficult, but remember, it's quality that counts more than quantity. Amen to that. Even a few minutes a day can make a big difference. Strive for balance. I would say harmony personally, but this is not me speaking here. So strive for balance and regularly do things that replenish your reserve in all areas of health, body, mind, heart, and soul. That is from Joe Kelly. Reflection 13, defining your self-care. Quote by Parker Palmer: self-care is never a selfish act. It is simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on earth to offer others. Anytime we can listen to true self and give the care it requires, we do it not only for ourselves, but for the many others whose lives we touch. So true. Next quote is from Eleanor Brown. By making time for self-care, you prepare yourself to be your best so you can share your gifts with the world. Rest and self-care are so important. When you take time to replenish your spirit, it allows you to serve others from the overflow. Self-care isn't selfish. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. This is the second time that we talk about this aspect of giving from overflow, giving from a cup that is full, not from an empty cup. Very important. Okay, so today is about self-care. We discussed our internal environment and how to focus on it through stillness. And the idea of self-care is a vital part of it all. I want you to come up with your own definition of self-care. Before sharing a few definitions I want to discuss in the next few days. What does self-care mean to you? There are a lot of different meanings to self-care, and often it's about the body, right? We mainly focus on the body, having a spa day, etc. So, what does self-care mean to you? And how does that relate to what we've discussed so far? How does that relate to your self-image, your internal dialogue, your internal environment, relating to your external environment? Do you consider these things that we've been talking about self-care? Just think about it. Again, I invite you to define what self-care means to you in the context of rising. When you choose to prioritize self-care, you essentially choose yourself. Yes. So that's our reading for today. And definitely choosing yourself is so huge. And no, it is not selfish to choose yourself, because choosing yourself allows you then to be what you need to be for others. So when we talk about choosing ourselves, we cannot not talk about boundaries, and we cannot not talk about self-care. And so you need to figure out what self-care means to you, because it's going to be different for you than it is for me. So one of my self-care practices, and I've talked about it already before, is that I don't listen to the news. And that is self-care for me, because it's easy to let the overwhelm, because the news is made to basically sensationalize everything. And I even had a friend tell me that she stopped listening to the news because at one point her brother was implicated in something and he ended up doing some jail time. But they vilified him in the news and said despicable things about him, all things that were not true. And so we need to understand that the whole idea, and I'm not knocking journalists or all of that industry, because, you know, a lot of them do care about what they do, but you have to be understanding of how it affects you, right? So it's not that I'm not aware of what's happening in the world, because especially with social media, there's no way you cannot be aware of what's going on. But to be my best self, I cannot allow anxiety and all of those things, that stress that some news outlets spew, to come in and impact my internal environment. And so that is a choice that I've done, and it's a self-care choice. And so you need to figure out what it is for yourself, because we cannot dictate to each other, you know, what we need to do in order to care for ourselves, right? And so the idea here is to think about it from the perspective of your soul and spirit, and not necessarily your body, because the body is pretty easy, you know, even though many of us don't really do it, but but it's easier to, you know, to do what we need to do to take care of our body. And so let's be a little bit more, let's go a little bit deeper, you know, go a less surface level and more deeper level when it comes to that aspect. Okay. And for me as well, another practice that is part of my self-care is the stillness practice. So yes, it's a practice on its own, but it's also a part of my self-care. If I don't have that as regularly as possible, then it's harder for me to function to my utmost capability, right? All right. So now let's go for the challenge of day 13. And so very simple. It is to define your self-care. So don't make it too overwhelming. Just pick one aspect of yourself that you know you need to care for, and preferably the soulish realm or the spirit realm. But if you want to start with the body realm, no problem. And so talk about it in one sentence. Okay? So what does self-care look like to you in one sentence? And you can define it in the perspective of either body, soul, and spirit. I prefer for you to go spirit and soul, but listen, you do you, all right? And then you want to commit to that self-care definition. Very, very important. So yes, you want to define it, but then you want to commit to whatever it means, right? And so it could be a practice. That's okay. You know, self-care, for example, self-care for me is taking a walk every day, example, right? So that's okay. It could be self-care for me is making sure that I journal. I get whatever it is that I'm thinking, feeling on paper. Or sometimes some people do voice notes too. You can do your journaling by speaking into your phone if it's better for you. Whatever works, whatever float your boat. You know what I mean? And there's actually an app which is called Kin, okay, Kin, which I'm been kind of playing around with. And it's very cool because it basically asks you questions so that you can brainstorm better. And it captures all of your answers, and then it formulates questions and kind of helps you with your thinking process by spewing it back to you, sort of thing. You know, it's very cool. And you can make it talk like AI, you know how AI is now, right? But you can also type, right? And then it gives you prompts. It basically, if you, whatever you want it to do, basically, it's kind of like a, you know, best friend in a pocket kind of thing. It's very interesting. Anyway, check it out, download it, play around with it, Kin, you know, and I think that could definitely, if you're not sure how to define your self-care, you know, ask Kin to help you figure it out. And it'll take everything that is dear to you and everything you define yourself as or by, and help you come up with it. All right, so that's it. So if you care to share, I would love that. So either in the comments or in the community.dareToRise.ca, or send me an email, shoot me a DM, whatever it is. I am here so that if you need to bounce things off, and again, March 1st, noon, we are having a clinic, and so you can mark that in your calendar. Also go to Luma, LU.MA, Luma, .ca for .com, sorry, luma.com/Dare to Rise events, and you can go and register there. Yeah, so I'm hoping that this first section of self-care has gotten you to think a little bit about where you situate yourself when it comes to self-care. So we have 2 more reflections that we are going to talk about in the next 2 days. All right, I am done. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye.